All right, folks, before we jump into tonight's episode, I just want to take a moment to thank our sponsor for the evening, and that is Stamps.com. Since 1998, Stamps.com has been an indispensable tool for nearly 1 million businesses. Stamps.com brings the services of the U.S. Postal Service and UPS shipping right to your computer. Whether you're an office sending invoices, a side hustle Etsy shop, or a full-blown warehouse shipping out orders, Stamps.com will make your life easier. All you need is a computer and a standard printer. No special supplies or equipment. Within minutes, you're up and running, printing official postage for any letter, any package, anywhere you want to send. And you'll get exclusive discounts on postage and shipping from USPS and UPS. Once your mail is ready, just schedule a pickup or drop it off. No traffic, no lines. Cut the confusion out of shipping. With Stamp.com's new Rate Advisor tool, you can compare shipping rates and timelines to easily find the best option. Save time and money with Stamps.com. There's no risk. And with our promo code, POD, that's P-O-D, you get a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in P-O-D, that's POD. Stamps.com, promo code POD, Stamps.com. Never go to the post office again. And away we go. What's going on, folks? How's everybody doing tonight? And welcome into another episode of America's Hometown Horror. My name is Mike, and by now you know that I am the host of the show. But you also know at this point that I am not alone, and I'm usually joined by my esteemed colleagues. And I happen to be joined by those same esteemed motherfuckers in the studio tonight.
I am so esteemed.
Absolutely. You've heard one. There's Kat. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. And also we're joined by Andrew. What's up, buddy?
Hey guys, how we doing? Hey everybody.
We're also joined by Otis at the Spooky Hound Dog, who is hanging out in the studio just chewing away on one of his bones like a good old boy. Before we get into tonight's festivities, first and foremost, I just want to send out a thank you to anyone that is listening now, has listened in the past, and also specifically listened to us during October, which was the Halloween season. Obviously the biggest time of the year for us, but with that being said, we are around year-round and constantly working to bring more content to you guys. But a big thank you to anyone that has supported us throughout the Halloween season, and it's just, almost 2 years into this thing, you guys.
I know.
December
crazy.
will be 2 years, and it still amazes me that we have people that not only listen to us, but, give us awesome feedback, comment on our social media posts. It really is just beyond flattering, and we are here to stay. We want to keep doing this for a long time to come, and I would be remiss if I did not take a moment to thank the guests that we had on in October, starting first and foremost with Mary Barrett Costello, the owner of Barrett's Haunted Mansion. We got a lot of good feedback on that episode, and also Alexandra from Halloween New England. Thank you to both of them for coming on the show and talking about a bunch of horror-related stuff. We would be nothing without our guests. So,
don't forget about Tony.
Hey, Tony. That's right. We had Tony as well. I can't forget Tony. I feel like I talked to him so much, I forgot about him, and I feel like a jerk. So, Tony, thank you as always for coming on.
Don't worry, Tony. I didn't forget about
talking about gateway horror. We always have such awesome guests, and I'll get down off my soapbox. I don't know if you guys want to say anything at that point.
Thank you very, very much. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much.
If you can get through an entire podcast of listening to us talk about whatever it is we're talking about, then you are a certain type of person.
Well, and it's fun to mix it up with guests, too, so you're not just listening to us all the time.
Exactly.
I mean,
Of course. Well, so with that being said, as we transition into our usual stuff for the podcast, guys, we had a chance to visit another haunted attraction last week, and that is Fear Town in Seekonk, Massachusetts. We went last Thursday, which was directly after this huge hurricane we had here in New England.
The
nor'easter. A lot of people lost power. A lot of trees were knocked down. A lot of things were affected. So we actually went a night or two after that storm, I think.
I think it was the night after.
The night after.
We went Thursday.
Because we didn't know if they would have power when we were on our way there.
Yeah, exactly. And we did go. They did have power. They were open. We stopped beforehand at an awesome bar and restaurant in Seekonk called the Dublin Rose and had an awesome meal and a couple of really fun fall drinks, or at least you guys did because I
Seasonal
volunteered
sangria.
The
to be
autumn
the
sangria.
yeah, that was good
Yes.
stuff, right?
So good.
Well, I volunteered to be the designated driver, so I had a very nicely poured Guinness and then cut myself off for the evening. But
You didn't want to pull a Henry Ruggs.
I did not want to pull a Henry Ruggs. Yikes, what a tragedy all around that fucking story is. But I digress. Yeah, so after that, we popped on over to Feartown in Seekonk, which is the first time I had ever been to this haunted attraction before. Same for you guys, correct?
Yes.
It was a very different experience than going to Barrett's, which we go to pretty much every year. But, anyone that runs their own haunted attraction, there's a lot of work that's put into it. And they do give you a good amount of stuff that they offer. It's 3 different all-outdoor walk-through haunted mazes, houses, whatever you will. One of them is based on a circus. I forget I forget the exact name of it.
Mr. Fingers?
I don't want to mess it up. It was Dr. Snozzers or Mr. Snozzers Haunted
Yeah.
Circus or
Snozzers.
something like
Yep.
that. Then there was one that was called Zombie Energy, which was a zombie-themed one it's
Energy
actually
drinks.
kind of a cool idea where if you there was an energy drink that came out that turned the masses into zombies, and then there was a final one that was what was that one themed to? It was called the Prey. That's right, the Prey.
They could name that drink Monster Energy.
Monster Energy. I know, it's kind of a knockoff of
Wait
that.
a minute.
All of them, we had a fun time walking through. There were not a lot of people there, attendees or actors. That would be my biggest criticism, is that sometimes walking through these attractions, it was a little tough to find.
But I think
A little tough to find actors. I think the storm probably affected that a little bit.
I think it was a lot of the storm because I feel like, and we went on a Thursday. Normally on the weekends, people the attractions are way more hyped up because people are more likely to go on the weekends than on a Thursday.
Yeah.
And it was right after, like we said, the nor'easter.
Yeah, for sure. But I thought for us, having to travel almost an hour to get there, it would be a good opportunity to go there on a school night, not get too many crowds, which we were in and out of there very quickly.
Like an hour.
Everything moved fast. There were barely any lines. But yeah, they give you, for the general admission ticket, you get 3 haunted attractions. There's another one that's an upcharge. They have a bunch of other things that you can buy tokens for, like games. They have a Monster Midway. So obviously it's closed for the season now, I believe, at this point. I don't want to completely judge my experience at Feartown based on my one night there after a storm. It did leave a little bit to be desired, I will say. But this is something that I would give another chance at some point in the
Andrew
future.
did get scared once by that one girl.
Andrew did get scared once. I completely forgot about that,
Yep.
and I'm
Good,
glad.
that was a good jump scare.
Yep.
Yeah, good jump scare.
he got his.
Moment of the night.
Yeah. Guys, any thoughts on Feartown?
I think it was a different approach. I mean, it's completely different from, we'll say, Barrett's, where
Yeah.
Barrett's is a
different
haunted
type of
house.
local haunt.
Totally
Yeah.
different, totally different type of local haunt. And it was, all outside. There wasn't anything inside at all. And they had different, more like games and stuff, which reminded me of Spooky World a little bit, which is woods, where they kind of have those extra little things you can do in addition to the haunted houses.
Yeah, a lot of the outdoor places have that now that have the space for it. Like I know Spooky World is built now off of Mel's Funway Park in New Hampshire, and this is also built off the Seekonk Speedway, so they have a lot of land there. So yeah, I mean, hey, if you're local to that area or if you want to experience a haunt, I would recommend not going the night after a storm and checking out Feartown in Seekonk, Massachusetts.
Other than getting scared once, which
I mean,
job.
yeah,
Very good,
you-
very
yeah,
good.
you did.
You got me, whoever that person was. You got me.
Yep.
And someone else got me too. I think I got scared
think
twice,
you did too,
actually,
yeah.
slightly.
Yeah.
Other than that, wouldn't waste your time. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And leave it at that. That's all I got.
I liked the whole maze concept that they had, though. Going through the different... But at some points, you didn't know where you were supposed to go because there were such big gaps to leave for the actors. That you didn't know if you were supposed to go that way or go the other way.
That was kind of tough, too. It was a little difficult to see where you were going.
It was
which,
kind of
which
dark,
can
too.
be a good thing. It was very dark.
Which is fine, but maybe put some lights in the ground or something because there was roots sticking out and I almost tripped
Well, that's
15
so
times.
why you
you
sign a
do
waiver.
you do have to sign a waiver.
I
before you
get
go
the
through
waiver
these
and I
houses.
don't care, but
Yeah.
I would prefer not to trip while I'm walking through.
They did have some cool set pieces, but I feel like they were pretty spread out.
So the
There was
one
some
that
cool
I remember
stuff.
that was good was
The dinosaur thing, right?
Those were kind of cool too, but the glutton basically from
yeah, right out of Seven, pretty much.
right out of
that was
Seven.
pretty cool. And they had one of the actors underneath that bed wearing
Oh,
a rabbit
yes.
mask. That was a good scare.
terrifying.
That was a good scare.
The other one that was really good was that first room you walked in for the zombie energy, and it was like 3 beer pong tables with like 6 cans on them. That was my favorite room.
Yeah, that was a little tough. Tough. But again, I don't want to pass judgment on one round through. I'm sure they work really hard to make that event go off seamless every
course,
year.
yeah.
So, hey, I would recommend checking out Fear Town if you want to check it out. Go for it. So, with that being said, I know that we probably have all watched a few things over the last week. I know, Kat, you and I, we finished, as of this recording last evening, we finally finished the first half of American Horror Story Season 10, which is subtitled Red Tide.
So good.
I would say it was good, not great.
The ending was a little bit left
God.
to be desired. But you always,
Man.
you're very end-oriented. I like the whole
I do,
journey
yeah.
through.
The
like,
journey's
the
good,
end-
but the end kind of matters.
And I'll tell you, with this one, Jesus, even in a shortened season, with ringtones on, man, does American Horror Story really know how to fuck up an ending still. Holy Jesus. The ending left a lot to be desired, but it was pretty cool throughout most of it. I actually really liked it.
I liked it too because it took place in P-Town and you recognize
Yeah,
so many
that's what I was going to say.
places.
Almost the whole thing was filmed in P-Town, and it's not like they use P-Town as like this generic setting. They lean heavily into Cape Cod and P-Town mythology, and it's really cool.
And like Sarah Paulson goes to Race Point Beach.
Yeah,
like,
oh my God, everything.
They name places. It's awesome.
Several important scenes in this show take place in the Muse restaurant.
Yep.
Which they changed the spelling of the title for it, but it's filmed, you can tell, in the restaurant where you and I have eaten several times.
Which I love. I love that restaurant.
I love that restaurant too. But yeah, they changed, so it's called in real life the Muse, MEWS, and they changed it to the Muse, MUSE in this. But it was good. You know, it's a lot of the same actors, just like every other season of American Horror Story. We still have another half to go, which is about aliens, which I'm psyched to watch that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch Aliens. I love it. I also can't wait for Ghostbusters to come out.
Oh, I know. That's gonna be good too.
Coming soon.
So yeah, I would recommend checking out Red Tide, and I think you liked it probably a little bit more than I did. I didn't hate it, but I just thought the ending
liked it a lot. I thought it was good.
Didn't stick the landing.
Roll Tide, baby.
Roll
Yeah,
Tide.
it's
Roll the red
it was an
tide.
interesting concept. Interesting take on vampires, which it's no spoiler to say that because it's in the marketing and the photos for it. Like when you click on it on Hulu or wherever you watch it, like that's in the promotion. Very, very heavy-handed metaphor for the opioid epidemic and drug use.
Oh, huge, yeah.
It is rampant
on Cape Cod, which is it's a real issue down there, especially, and they choose to focus a lot on. Not choose to focus on. It's about residents that stay in P-Town and the Upper
During
Cape.
the winter, yeah.
During the winter when everybody else leaves, which was a cool angle to lean into. And you know what? Actually, one of my favorite parts about it was
What?
I was blown away. I really, really liked Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah.
I actually thought he was pretty good. He played a likable character. I thought it was total stunt casting when I heard that he was going to be in it.
You hated him when you were first like, oh, here comes Macaulay Culkin.
He looks like he's part of the opioid epidemic on the Cape.
And I confused him with Haley Joel Osment.
Let's be nice. Let's be nice.
I mean, he probably had a tough go of it being a child actor. It seems like he's really turned his life around, and it was actually good to see him, in a role where he got a chance to do some things. I liked him in it. I thought he was good. He was good. Evan Peters is good in everything that he does in American Horror Story.
And the main guy that I forget his name. The black hair.
Finn Wittrock, who was the main character, he was great. Lily Robb, who plays his wife, was really good.
Broccoli Rob.
Sarah Paulson was great as the meth head that's kind of hanging out with Macaulay Culkin.
She was great in the fact that I hated her character, but I was supposed to hate her character.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And then Frances Conroy, who played Belle Noire.
Yes.
Oh, she was good.
Was really good.
As she always is in American Horror Story. So, I would recommend.
Not a dud.
Not a dud. I would recommend checking it out. I thought it was probably one of the stronger seasons over the last several that they've done.
Yeah.
1984 was pretty good. But, yeah, check it out for sure. And then we, the night before Halloween, we did a Cat double feature of movies that she wanted to watch.
Scream
and The Ring back to back, which made you extremely happy.
Oh, I was so happy.
First time I had seen The Ring in quite a while. It's a scary movie for sure. I also forgot how not slow, but it's just not. It's definitely a slower burn of a movie than I remembered it being. I probably haven't seen it in several years.
That's so good. You know what we should do like once a month is we all pick a double feature.
Ooh, I like that.
And then we can
idea.
talk about it on the podcast for like 10 minutes max about the double feature, like just movies that we probably
Movies
wouldn't
should pair
talk
together.
about.
Yeah.
Not even have to pair together. Like I would do like Phantasm and Candyman, and then you would be so pissed, and I'd be like, for
But you'd be
5
like, "It's your
hours you're
pick."
going to be miserable.
Yep.
Yeah.
But no, I
Andrew,
wouldn't do that.
you watched anything good over the last week or so since we recorded?
I
Pardon me.
haven't really watched anything new. I mean, I broke down and rented. Actually, I bought on Prime Video Creepshow, the first one.
Oh, that's right. You were telling me that.
That was so
That's a
good.
good
It was like
one.
$7.99. I was like, I always want to watch that
dude.
movie, and it's never available.
Good movie to own. And you've been binging the Creepshow TV series.
I'm on
too.
to season 3, so I gotta, like I do everything. When I binge, it's like a one-night binge, and then I have to like really force myself to do it again. Because then I have to like actually pay attention and like try and watch it. It's hard sometimes when it's dark out at 7 o'clock and you just want to go to bed.
Yeah.
But I haven't watched anything else other than that. But
Talk to me about Creepshow. We covered it on the podcast a while back.
No,
we did cover that.
we did cover that, but I'm
Yeah,
saying.
but I mean, just overall thoughts watching it again. What do you think?
It's awesome.
An all-timer.
All-timer. And if I was ever going to get a tattoo sleeve, I would get a Creepshow themed sleeve, because you could make that. You could have like Ted Danson's head under
could have
a sand,
Fluffy in the
ocean.
crate.
You could have Fluffy in the crate, just the eyes, You could
The
have
eyes.
the creep,
Yep.
obviously.
Yep.
You could have Bedelia, you bitch.
Bedelia, you bitch.
Where's my cake?
It's Father's Day. Yeah, great movie.
The one with
They're creeping up on you with the insects.
that one's weird too. The only one I don't really like is the one with Stephen King in it.
Oh,
Where he plays
yeah,
the
yeah,
bozo.
yeah. Yeah,
Like he's just making. It's like
Yeah.
it's basically Stephen King being a pretentious asshole that he is.
or being a main hick, which is essentially
Yeah.
like, backwoods, like North Mainer. But
He's just ridiculing them though. It's rude.
yeah. Also, it's funny to see, like in the wraparound segment, Tom Atkins of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch fame playing the dickhead dad.
Yep.
And then the kid that actually his son is Stephen King's son in real life.
Joe Hill.
Yeah, Joe Hill, and then stabs him with the voodoo doll at the end. And also, you get a little cameo from Tom Savini as one of the garbage men.
Yep.
Yep.
That's true too.
Back in the
About
early 80s.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, so some good stuff. Good stuff.
Pretty awesome. And I also think, I may be mistaken, and I'm probably wrong, but the wife, she maybe just looks like her. The wife in the crate, that's Fluffy.
Adrienne Barbeau.
Adrienne Barbeau. She wouldn't perhaps be the weird school teacher in Billy Madison, would she? That eats glue.
Don't believe
That eats glue?
so.
I don't know who
believe
you're
Yeah,
talking
so.
remember,
about.
like she's like the preschool, or like the first or second grade teacher in Billy Madison, and she's
puppy?
like the puppy, and then she's just like eating glue, like, or no, she's like painting her face.
She's painting
I
her
don't
face.
think,
She's
yeah,
not
no, I don't
eating
think that's
glue.
her.
It
But
looks like her.
The
She-
puppy
she's-
who lost his way.
yeah,
puppy.
get up off your fat ass and you find that fucking dog. No, she's famous for being in Carpenter stuff. Like she was in The Fog. She's been in
okay.
a number of horror movies in the
Well.
80s. So she was in season 1 of Creepshow. She was in the very first segment of the very first episode of Creepshow season 1, which was a Stephen King story.
No shit. Only other thought I had was you guys were talking about red tide, and as soon as I heard red tide, it makes me think about the
Red
lakes.
tea?
What happens to the lakes when you get the red algae growing and you
Yeah,
can't go in it?
happens a lot around
Wouldn't
here.
it be cool if there was like a horror movie where it's like takes place on a lake and there's like the red tide, the red algae growing, and these half vampire, half creatures from the Black Lagoon just start coming out and just pillaging and killing everybody.
Pillaging.
Right. Pillaging, killing.
They were growing. They come out as like little half vampire, half Black Lagoon creatures, like.
Write that screenplay, dude. Write that screenplay. Let's go.
That's for someone that has
Get up on
it.
that actually has motivation and stuff like that. So,
Cool.
That's all I got.
Anything else? I think that's probably
Maybe
it, right? Still gonna watch Muppets Haunted Mansion. That's gonna be coming soon next week. Yeah, we gotta watch that. I need to do a free trial of
We
Disney
could do
Plus.
a Muppet double feature.
I mean, I would love to do that. I would love to do that.
What would be, if you had to pick, what would be your go-to Muppet movie?
I like him up at Christmas Carol.
That one's great, but I also like Muppet Treasure Island.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's got to be Treasure Island.
Yeah, Muppet Treasure Island's really good.
Christmas Carol, all right. Treasure
It's for
Island.
Michael Caine.
Also, I mean, you can't go wrong.
Don't say Muppets in Space. That one stunk. Not my favorite.
And Muppets Take Manhattan stunk.
What's the one where he sings the Rainbow Connection?
Oh God, that's in the one with Jason Segel that came out.
No, that's like in the
in
original.
all of them.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
He also did that in the one that came out in like
Isn't
the
it just called the
reboot.
Muppet
That's
movie?
the, no,
It's called The
yeah,
Muppets.
that's the one with Sandra Bernhardt, who Big Bird. No, what am I thinking of?
Sandra Big Burn.
I don't know.
Never mind.
tell you.
I'm thinking of like Sesame Street. No, what am I thinking of?
Sandra Big Bird.
I've heard it's good, but yeah. So don't snooze on Muppets Haunted Mansion. We should definitely check that out.
Oh, it's Big Bird Takes L.A.
Big Bird Takes L.A. Yep, also that one too. All right, guys, I got no news. Why don't we just jump right into our movie, which is something that we've been waiting to talk about for a while, huh? And that movie is called Antlers. Oh my God, it feels like this movie's been delayed a million times.
Like a year and a half?
A long time. So this is actually, I had this in facts. This was filmed over 1 month, October of 2018 through November of like almost 2 full months. October through November of 2018, and we're now in the year of our Lord, October 2021.
That's impressive.
Almost 3 years ago it was filmed.
That happens a lot though, even without COVID.
I know. But, yeah, so I know I personally have been championing this movie since it was announced for a few specific reasons. First one was that I read the short story that it was based on, which was really good. It's called The Quiet Boy. You can read it online for free, which I highly recommend you do. It's about a half-hour read, so it's much shorter than the actual movie itself. I think the movie does a good job of expanding on the plot a good amount, but kind of keeps the core elements in place. And also, it was written by a guy named Nick Antosca, who I know we've mentioned on this podcast a bunch of times, is the writer, or was the writer and creative mind behind Channel Zero.
I love Channel Zero.
Which was, if you've never heard of it, an anthology series that was on Sci-Fi, of all places, and is one of the most criminally underrated horror shows to come out over the last decade. Which
Watch
was,
the No Name House.
No Name House was good. No End House.
No
End House. They were all really, really good to varying degrees. I actually really liked Candle Cove, the first one.
Yeah, that was
good. They were all good.
You didn't see any of them, right?
I saw Candle Cove. That one was good.
Yeah, Candle Cove was good.
You should see the No End
but
House.
unfortunately, it was canceled after 4 seasons. The 4th season was Dream Door. That one was really good, too.
They were all really good.
They were all
I can't
really
believe it
good.
got canceled.
So it was canceled way too soon. And I would be, I would say that I was very happy with the results after such a long wait. And I think this is one of the stronger horror movies that I've probably seen this year. It's not quite a classic, but I really liked it a lot. And whoo boy, is it dark. Oh my goodness. It's definitely not a feel-good experience when you walk out of the theater. And I think we all mentioned that we needed a good laugh after leaving, because it definitely is a heavy movie to watch. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I've pretty much been thinking about this movie over the last 24 hours, less than 24 hours since we've seen it, walking out of the theater. And I thought the creature design was fantastic. They did a really good job for the most part of keeping the creature and any spoilers out of the trailers and the marketing, which is a difficult thing to do considering how many times it was delayed. You would think that, oh my God, like how long are we going to keep this movie out of the theaters? Maybe we should just show some more plot points to be able to get some more get some more asses in the seats here. But it was also absolutely gorgeous to look at. Beautiful scenery, awesome cinematography. There were a couple things that didn't work for me. I'll get into a little bit more on that later on when we get into nitpicks. But also, this movie might contain the biggest jump scare that I've experienced in a movie theater this year. I think it actually got all three of us.
It got all
pretty
three
good.
of us, and it may have been, I will, with a caveat, it may have been because it was perfect. It was so loud, and it was right behind you. It was like, bang! And I was like, okay, that's good. But was I more scared of the giant, if anything goes bang behind you, you're going to jump.
Well, and the fact that
But also, you knew it was coming, and you were waiting for it, and you were like...
I wasn't expecting it from behind.
I wasn't expecting it to be that loud from behind. That's what was cool about it.
That was good.
Like, I don't know if you get that same effect watching it.
That scared the absolute shit out of me. So I really dug this movie, and I know I've been waiting for it for a long time. So maybe I'm a little biased, but I thought it was great. I thought it was very good, just short of great.
I feel like I didn't really know what it was about when I watched the trailer. If that makes sense, like
the trailer was very vague.
Very vague, and like just watching the whole movie, I was like, oh, well, this is an interesting story. Like I didn't get this at all from the trailer. But yeah, I'm with Andrew with the that one big scare that you almost felt like it was so loud that like you felt the antlers go through you.
I got
like,
so scared that I didn't even realize if you guys has gotten scared. But I didn't want to say anything because I was like, jump. And I was like, and I was like, they didn't move. I didn't think anybody moved because we were probably all moving in unison. I'm like, oh my God. And I was like, did that scare you guys? Because I was scared shitless.
I was scared. Andrew, what were your thoughts on this movie?
I thought this movie was awesome.
Yeah.
It was super dark, super depressing, right up my alley, weird, had, folklore, myths. It was just lacking in the culty-ness of it, but that's fine. It had all that entailed in it. It actually kind of reminded me, and this is going to sound weird, because it kind of reminded me. Have you ever seen that movie? Actually, it's nothing like this movie, so I'm going to start off with that.
Okay.
I think it was called Silent House. Came out in like 2011, 2012, and it's about this girl that moves back into her home. I think she moves back in, or she lives there, but she moves back into her family house, and she starts experiencing like creepy vibes, like ghosts and stuff like that. But it turns out it's not actually ghosts. She's just having like terrible flashbacks, basically, to being molested by her uncle and dad. And that movie ends, and you just like,
yeah, what the fuck?
So it's like it reminds me of like this movie had elements of that with like the abuse and all that stuff, and it made you feel very uncomfortable. But it also had, so what that movie lacked was it didn't have a badass monster.
Right.
Like that made it okay.
Badass monster.
It went from so that other movie could have been a horror movie. Instead, it was just a uncomfortable movie. This could have been an uncomfortable movie, but it was a horror movie because it involved the monster, not just the depressing. Because that movie, I've never sat and like Seven. That's a dreary movie to watch.
Yeah.
This movie was just as dreary. I felt like in that aspect that it was always dark. It was always the most depressing town to ever live in.
Yeah.
Like one of those like mine towns that's like has no money
an
anymore.
opioid problem.
Yes.
Child abuse. Like there's so many dark, deep things.
You brought up Seven, Andrew. That definitely I feel like is when you I love Seven. It's one of my favorite movies. So I've learned to get past this feeling. But the first time you watch Seven, you walk out of that with less faith in humanity than you had before.
Oh yeah.
This movie I feel like is a very heavy, dark, depressing movie because without spoiling it, like the good guys don't really win in the end.
There's no
like,
glimmer of hope
really
at the end
solved,
of this movie.
Yeah.
Which is a tough pill to swallow, but hey, as they say in Seven, when Brad Pitt's interviewing that guy that ran the hall where all the prostitutes were in, well, that's life, isn't it?
Yep.
Which is sad to say. So, the one thing that I thought of with this, it's actually a very similar story. I know you said you were rewatching Creepshow. I don't know if you rewatched the season 1 lately.
I didn't rewatch.
So the one that Adrienne Barbeau from the original Creepshow movie was in, the very first segment of the very first season is called Gray Matter. It's based on a Stephen King story where there is a child that walks into a convenience store to buy beer for his dad. And this story is very much about addiction, like this movie is. And basically, this kid's dad, they come to find out that he drank a bad can of beer, and he's turned into this gigantic gelatinous monster that essentially starts to devour the entire town. Now, obviously, that's a little bit sillier than this movie, and this movie takes itself very, very seriously.
Yeah.
But that was the story that I thought of, personally, when I thought of it. So,
Well, this movie is based off of actual folklore.
Correct.
So,
yeah.
Which was a cool spin.
Which always,
that,
well, they do that a lot now. Which I like. I like to have some semblance in reality, even though is that even reality?
Yeah.
Who knows? That's what makes it cool.
Right.
Paranormal. I like it.
Kat, your thoughts?
I love this movie too. I thought it was really good. I did like that whole reference to like the Native American kind of like explaining, even though it was far fetched. It seemed far fetched. I mean, I liked that element of it.
Indigenous.
See, that
people.
was one of my nitpicks with it, which
that.
I'll get to, and not because I just thought it was exposition for the sake of exposition.
Okay.
Like, go ahead. You can. I'll talk about that more later. But you go ahead.
I actually liked Carrie Russell, her character.
Yeah, Carrie Russell.
And I like how she went full circle with kind of the son and kind of like brought her under her wing and kind of. I liked that whole storyline too, and I thought it was a great movie.
Excellent.
That's my overall thought.
Good. Well, I'm glad you liked it because I was surprised. I thought this would be a movie that
I
going
like
going
dark
into it without
things.
having seen it. I thought that you might not like it because I know you're not as big of a fan of creature features as I am.
It reminded me a little bit of like Hannibal with the like this is my design and stuff, like the antler things and kind of like trying to figure things. Well, there's a lot of like antler references, like True Detective, even like at the very first kill with the girl in the tree with the antlers or whatever, and then there's what I just said with Hannibal and that whole thing. So I mean, there's a lot of different antler kind of
some parallels
Hannibal,
there.
the TV show.
Hannibal,
the TV show, correct.
Yeah,
Sorry,
show.
not to be confused with the movie. Yes.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, there's a lot of references. I liked it. I thought it was cool.
So obviously we've talked about a lot of different horror movies this year and a lot of ones that came out in 2021. Andrew, what movies, if any, do you think that you've seen this year that are better than this?
That's tough because we've seen a lot. Definitely not Halloween Kills.
I'll give you my answer now, just so you have an idea.
Yeah.
I thought the only movies that I've seen this year that were better than this were Malignant and VHS 94. Malignant is still my favorite.
Malignant,
and I thought VHS 94 was slightly better.
Malignant, definitely. VHS 94 was good. I also liked. There's so many movies that came out, I can't remember them all. I know I liked Candyman.
Spiral from the Book of Saw,
Spiral
Quiet
was
Place
solid.
2,
Man.
Conjuring 3.
I liked that movie when it first came. That's like now way down the line, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, it came out in like, what, March?
Conjuring?
Yeah, when did we see that? May? No, May maybe?
Might have been. It was earlier in the season. I thought it was.
Maybe it was
I thought it was in the summer personally, but I don't remember.
This would definitely find a top 3, I think, this year for me.
Yeah, this is where it lies for me.
So.
What I was gonna. So is there anything?
I know, like we're not gonna rank every
No,
movie.
no,
this
but
year,
I'm saying
right?
it.
There's
What
so many.
Usually
what?
he gives us the list, and I was like, I'm trying.
I'm not
to
giving.
remember.
I'm not giving you the list. What movies did you like that you've seen better this year?
Liked better than Antlers.
Yeah. Like, where would this rank for you? I know
liked
you
the Jigsaw
really liked
movie,
Spiral.
Sorry, and
you really liked the Fear
Quiet
Street
Place
movies.
2, and I liked Fear Street. So it's right up there with them. I'd say top 5.
Okay. All right, so top 5. All right, yeah, see, I also agree with Andrew. I think top 3. Like, Malignant still, I think, far and away is my favorite of the year.
I just don't know if VHS gets into the top 3. I think it.
See, I love the VHS
I don't know.
franchise. So maybe I'm biased. Maybe it's recency bias.
That has no implication on that movie. I love that movie. I would have to really take a hard look at it at the end of the year. We still have to see. We still got another one coming out next week. We got to look at. So.
Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then we got Ghost. Like we got a nice.
Yeah. Well, to be completely honest, we were a toss up between doing this week or Last Night in Soho, which we'll probably cover next week. I would think. And it was literally, we just got to the movie theater, and each showing was 5 minutes apart, so it was literally a matter of when we got to the theater, we just picked one, and thankfully we got in there in time for Antlers. We still would have made it into Last Night in Soho, because they do 20 minutes worth of trailers, but I definitely wanted to see Antlers. I was pumped. I want to see Last Night in Soho, too, but I was more excited for this movie, personally.
It's been a longer wait.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's also true.
Talking about it for a year and a half now.
All right, so newer movie, guys. I have some facts. You want to hear them?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. As we just mentioned, so this movie is not available to stream anywhere, which is a little different than some of the newer horror movies that we've covered this year. You can't stream it anywhere. You got to see it exclusively in theaters.
Well, now they're even saying in trailers that they're only showing it in theaters.
I know. That's
I like
a new
that.
thing.
That's
like
a new
that they're
thing.
saying that.
Exclusively in theaters.
Last night there was one other person there. Granted, we were at a very early showing, and it was a Tuesday night, but that's still sad. There needs to be more people. We need to start going back to the movie theaters. Come on. Go to the movie theaters. Otherwise, there will be no movie theaters.
Well, I know a lot of people went out to go see Dune over the past weekend, which
I want to see that.
I want to see it. It's on HBO Max, though. I'll watch it eventually, but I care more about Last Night in Soho than Antlers than I do Dune, personally.
I don't know what that is. What's Dune?
It's a new epic sci-fi movie. So actually, remember that movie Prisoners?
Yes.
That we talked about?
Yeah.
So the guy that directed Prisoners directed this movie Dune.
Okay. But
remember that movie Dune? It's a remake of that movie.
Yeah.
It's a remake of Prisoners?
The Dennis Lynch,
it's a remake
the David
of Dune.
Lynch movie that had David Bowie in it, a bunch of people.
It's like from the 80s.
Yeah, it's from the 80s. You've never seen it.
It's very long, I feel like.
Okay.
So this movie was directed...
Skip it.
It's okay. That's all right. This movie was directed by a guy named Scott Cooper, which was, he's not necessarily known as a horror director. Not that he's not necessarily known. He's not known as a horror director because he's never directed a horror movie before. His 3 big movies that he's directed before this was first one was called Crazy Heart. That got nominated for a bunch of Academy Awards. Specifically, Jeff Bridges got nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor for playing a country singer. Colin Farrell was in it, a bunch of other people.
Like him.
He also, for all you Massachusetts people, directed the Black Mass movie, which is the Johnny Depp playing Whitey Bulger movie. He directed that. And he also directed a movie called Out of the Furnace, which has Christian Bale and Casey Affleck and Woody Harrelson. Very, very underrated movie. Not a horror director. And this movie was executive produced by Guillermo Del Toro and written by the aforementioned Nick Antosca. So those two are horror guys for sure. But it's funny because, Del Toro, I read this today, sought out Scott Cooper personally to direct this movie, which was an interesting choice because he's not a horror director. But this is exactly what he said in an interview. Scott Cooper said about that process. He said, quote, Del Toro approached me and said, quote, your last 3 films have been horror films and nobody knows it. Would you consider directing a horror film? This is what Cooper told The Hollywood Reporter. And Cooper then said, I wouldn't have made the film without Guillermo as producer because he is our foremost creature creator. And his folks at Legacy Effects, who worked with Stan Winston Studios. Stan Winston, obviously one of the biggest names in creature effects, were involved from the inception through the design stage. So basically, the idea was pitched to him. The story was presented to him. He saw a good team to work with Del Toro and Antosca, and he was like, you know what? I've never done a horror movie. Let's do it. Which I feel like that's a really cool mindset for a director to have, and I feel like it's more acceptable these days. But there were a lot of directors over the years that felt that horror was like beneath them. This is a very acclaimed director directing a creature feature horror movie. Granted, this is about things. Like when we get into our half-assed quick analysis, this movie is very clearly about some stuff. But cool to see an acclaimed director directing such a straightforward horror movie. Balls-to-the-wall horror movie. So this movie, as I mentioned, was filmed from the 1st of October in 2018 and was finished on November 30th of 2018. It was not released until October of 2021.
Wait, that's 2 months.
Fucking
you said
COVID.
1 month.
I corrected myself earlier. I said 2 months.
Yeah, I was going to be like, that was really impressive for you filming a month.
When the hosts aren't paying attention. Yeah, 2 months. 2 months. 2 months. From October to the end of November of 2018. Came out in October 2021, which stinks. And, if you haven't seen it yet, spoiler alert from this point forward, this film features a Wendigo, which, if you haven't heard of that before, that is a cannibalistic creature of Native American, specifically Algonquin, folklore. I know I loved the creature design from this movie. What did you guys think of the Wendigo when you finally see it? Because I feel like they do a good thing of pulling like the jaws and hiding it almost until the very end.
Yeah.
What did you guys think?
I liked seeing the face still on the Wendigo.
That was the coolest part.
Because it was just his like fleshy face,
Yeah.
like just hanging on him, and you were just like, oh my god, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And then I couldn't stop looking I didn't even look at the rest of him until I couldn't get beyond the skin mask.
Yeah.
But very creepy creature. Lots of horns, lots of weird, it was like a hollowed out, like, beast kind of thing.
Like a deer.
It was, yeah.
It reminded me a lot of, and I feel like the people who did The Ritual on Netflix would tell you that creature was based somewhat on Wendigos as well, but it reminded me of the creature from The Ritual on Netflix, which is a great movie.
Very true.
Well.
That movie's awesome.
Yeah. Andrew, what did you think?
I thought the creature design was great. I even liked, obviously the skin face thing.
The skin
cool.
face.
It's like leather face as a deer. Basically, like, I'm going to wear your face.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Like, that's fucked up. And then I also really enjoyed, like, the transformation of the character who's basically, like, infected or whatever of this thing. Like, he almost reminded me of, like, a golem of a Smeagol. Like, he's
Yeah.
And I like the, like, how you could see, like, the glowing and they were, like, burning from the inside out for this, and this thing, like, took over. That was really cool.
How long do you think it takes for them to do, like, to transform
It's
into
the faster they eat, right? The more they
I
eat,
think that was the vibe that
the
I
more
got.
you feed it, the faster it turns.
Right.
I think, and that was left intentionally vague, I feel like, because they didn't really get a lot into the backstory, which I mentioned this before, but my nitpick was they were so intentionally vague about the mythology of this creature for most of the movie, and then they have the one Native American character that's in the entire movie essentially describe what's going on to the two white characters that are the heroes. Like, I think he might have been the only Native American character in the entire movie.
Yeah.
which I thought that was kind of like, okay, like I get you want to move the plot along and explain to people what's going on, but I feel like they could have went without that, and they also probably could have had more Native American characters in the movie, considering it's a Native American folklore creature. I thought they could have done a little bit more than that. Yeah. That was the biggest nitpick I had with the whole thing. I don't know. That I just thought they could have done a little bit better of a job there.
Going back to the time frame, though, it did say in the beginning 3 months later after, and like they didn't show the.
I thought it was 3 weeks later.
It was 3 weeks.
Months.
3 hours
3
later.
weeks
I
later?
think it was 3 weeks.
It was 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
100%.
Yeah.
All right.
3 weeks.
So 1 month.
3 weeks.
It took them to turn into the thing.
Do you guys know the other very prominent horror story that has been adapted now into 2 movies that features a Wendigo?
I thought it was called Wendigo.
So basically, it's a very famous story by a very famous horror author who hails from New England.
Author.
Can you give me like a hint?
Lovecraft? No.
I'll give you a hint.
Poe?
He's from Maine. And,
Stephen King.
All right, so those be all the facts that I have, you guys. I want to talk a little bit of analysis of this movie because, like we talked about, it's definitely about a few things. And I think we kind of talked about a couple of these already, but I think it's absolutely no secret that this movie is about, I think, 3 specific things. Much like we talked about with American Horror Story Red Tide, this movie is absolutely, I think, first and foremost about the American opioid epidemic, right? I don't think there's any secrets there.
Yeah.
Very obvious.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like very, very heavy-handed metaphors for that. Also, not so subtle, not even allusions to, but very heavy-handed on the child abuse metaphor, which all of these things, I think, make this into the very dark, heavy viewing experience that we talked about. But I also thought that, and this is, I read a little bit more about this movie in interviews with Scott Cooper, the director, today, and I think this movie is also definitely about the mistreatment of America, and more specifically Native Americans, right? Just because the overall destruction of this beautiful Pacific Northwest town by addicts and drug trafficking, I think, is a metaphor for European colonization of America. Back when settlers first came here and kind of took over everything, right? Here's a direct quote from Scott Cooper, the director. Our European forebears first came to these shores and colonized Native Americans, then raped and pillaged their way across the nation, taking Native Americans' land and resources. And in their mythology, the Wendigo came out of that. So it seemed to me that I could tell the stories that are ailing America and the horrors that America is living with now. Depths of despair, unprecedented addiction, drug overdoses, suicides, alcohol-related deaths, and then filter it all through the Native American experience and through the Wendigo. So I think it's definitely intended to be seen that way, obviously, right from the mouth of the director.
Well, what was like the first scene in the movie? It was like a quote. I couldn't remember exactly what it was, but it was basically explaining the Wendigo.
I tried to find that, and I couldn't find it.
And it was explaining the Wendigo, and it was basically saying that it preys upon like the frail, the depraved, and the depressed,
Yeah.
or something like that's what it preys on, and that's what this town was.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, it was shot so beautifully, but didn't it look so bleak and
It looked
empty? And oh my God, it was just like depressing to look at. You can see like the bones of this once great town that probably was, very populated and thriving during mining times, and then all that dried up, and then everyone just started doing drugs. And
Dude, I thought it was wild that they're like in school and then they go outside and they get their backpacks out from outside. Like they don't even have lockers.
Yeah,
like,
that was kind of weird.
Kept their backpacks outside.
Yeah.
That was like, ugh, where are you going to school? This place sucks.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, for sure. Here's one more quote from Scott Cooper, the director. He said, I quote, I think the scariest movies hold up a dark mirror to America's fear and anxieties, and certainly Antlers does that, I think. And I think that kind of runs parallel, and, with most horror filmmakers these days. You can say that about, like, Jordan Peele, any of the new directors that are out there directing horror movies that are about... Horror's always been about social issues, and I feel like that has become even more prevalent over the last few years, probably even more so than in years past. I think it's definitely, when you're watching this movie, just things to think about and things that you can pick up on watching this. Any thoughts, you guys?
Yeah.
I mean, 100%.
Okay.
I agree with that.
All right. Fair enough. That means it's time for categories.
Woo-woo.
And I will start with the cat-egory. Cat, this movie scary? Yay or nay?
Yeah, absolutely scary. I mean, the creature is scary. The whole premise of it is scary. The real life scares of like child abuse, depression, like the whole opioid epidemic. Like, I mean, there's so many things that are scary about this movie. Yeah, absolutely.
I think so too. And as I mentioned, I think this has the best jump scare of the year, at least the one that got me the most. But overall, I did actually find this movie to be scary, and because I think for me, from like the opening shot, it just created a sense of dread.
Yeah.
That stayed with you for the entire movie, from the outset, that never went away. And it's an incredibly uncomfortable movie to watch at certain points, especially when you see like some of the examples of the child abuse, and when it's flashing back to the main character, Kerry Russell's character, I forget her name, some of her vivid recollections of abuse at the hands of her father. Like, that was some disturbing stuff.
Absolutely.
But that type of stuff makes for an effective horror film. And I think this will never be mentioned alongside, the quote-unquote best horror films ever made. But this is the type of horror that sticks with me personally. And I mentioned already that I've kind of been thinking about it like for the last day. And I think, those are the reasons why. Because it's about some stuff that are real issues in this country. So, Andrew, what about you?
Oh, 100%. This is the type of horror movie that I'm more apt to recommend to someone to watch. And then they watch it and they're like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Why did you have me watch this movie?
Right?
And I'm like, don't you feel terrible after watching that? And they're like, yeah,
but
thanks. And I'm like, that's the idea.
Yeah.
That's what that's what it's supposed to be, dread and horror. And like, to me, like, it's definitely a horror movie because, like, at least from the point of view from the children that live in this town.
Oh my God,
like, that one kid like the bully. Yeah, he's a bully and he's an asshole, and he's probably abused by his parents, and he gets absolutely devoured by the Wendigo. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this movie was definitely.
About that until you just said that.
That horror, that jump scare too was premiere.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was really, really good. Did anyone have a favorite scene that they wanted to talk about?
Ooh,
I mean, I'll say
there's a lot.
Probably mine. I would say. It's definitely not a movie, like I said, that like there's a lot of scenes like, like, let's go.
Yeah.
But like I think probably the full reveal of the Wendigo in the mine at the end of the movie, that was really cool to see. That was pretty awesome. It's very violent. There's a lot of cool stuff, but I thought that was probably my quote unquote favorite scene if I had to pick one. That was like, really cool.
Great reveal of kind of reminded me of like It kind of, but not even like on the same level, like when they're like deep inside underneath, like when he like
when you finally see the true form.
Obviously this is a lot scarier than that.
Right.
Because this is absolutely horrifying, the situation that's in it's all the situation that's going on that makes this more horrifying, like whereas in it's kind of a silly situation. Not silly, but it's not like this.
No.
Favorite scene though definitely would have to be when that stupid principal, the mom from Field of Dreams, she's been in a bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah, I forgot that was her. Oh my God.
She's basically been, she's part of the problem. She's ignored abuse that's been going on at school, and she makes excuses for these people and doesn't check in and do what she's supposed to do. And she finally does, and she goes to the house. And when she goes up in the attic and just absolutely gets that's a great scene. I'm like, oh my God, don't go up there. She's like, it stinks in here. Why don't you call the police?
Yeah,
I
know.
Right.
Maybe get out of there and don't explore.
You're going in there by yourself.
So speaking of nitpicks, here's a nitpick. Granted, I wouldn't want anything to do with this horrifying situation, but the cops show up at night and they're like, maybe we should just come back in the morning. When clearly something, it smells like death out here, and then you just leave.
So you bring up a great point, because I feel like one of the more disturbing parts about this movie was how apathetic the school principal, the police force seemed to be to a lot of this. Like, I forget the character's name, but Jesse Plemons, who was in Breaking Bad, been in a bunch of other stuff. So his character, I didn't like his character because I feel like he was very passive, but it just kind of goes to show you, like, his excuse the whole time was like, well, I've tried to do this and the system is holding me back from doing this. Like, I can't get ahead. And that's very real, right? I mean,
to these people, it's just a paycheck. Like, why would you want to risk your life or do something that puts you out of your comfort zone? Like, to me, they need to, like, reestablish, like, who gets put in this position. Not anybody should just be put in this type of position.
Right.
You should have some sort of, like, maybe a background in social work. Like, you actually generally care about other people's lives and well-beings. And not just view it as, well, I need to get paid, and certainly you should get paid, and you do have a family you need to worry about. That's why particular certain people should be in these positions, not just whoever's. I mean, in this town's case, there really was no one else.
Yeah, and I think there were probably two likable characters in this movie. One of them was the kid Lucas, and then the other one was Carrie Russell's character, because she obviously was, projecting her own past trauma on this kid, understanding that there were probably some things going on, and she was essentially saying, this kid is screaming out for help, and nobody's willing to help him but me, and you're telling me that I can't help him. Like, what?
In what world is that okay?
Like, what do you want? What do you want me to do?
We can't take him in.
They're just like, there's so many other families that are just like them.
His
and
mom's
whatever.
dead.
Like,
His dad just turned into a Wendigo.
And
you're like, and his brother is basically turning into a Wendigo too. And you're just like, what are we supposed to do?
That was also very, very depressing.
Yeah.
Very depressing.
Well, so can I talk about my favorite scene?
Yeah, go ahead.
Was when you finally saw, like, you didn't really know what happened to the dad and the little brother.
Part. Yep.
Yeah.
Because, like, all of a sudden it was just the kid that was at school, and you were kind of like, well, okay, who's this kid? Like, you didn't know who he was from the beginning. And then all of a sudden he opens the door and you see the brother and the dad, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
They're still alive? Like, I automatically assumed they were dead.
So yeah, I picked up on that because the dad very clearly said to the little kid that was in the truck, I'm gonna run back inside and we're gonna go pick up your brother Lucas.
Right.
And then they went to school, so I picked up on that, but I was like, oh shit, I thought it was just two random people that were getting killed by the Wendigo to start out the movie. But yeah, no, that was his family. So that was, it was cool to see, and they didn't like spend an excessive amount of time flashing back. They essentially just like, here's what happened. And it looks like at least the dad was like recognizing, I'm fucked up.
That's what I was going to say.
Lock me in here, don't let me out, no matter what.
Like, as much as that dad was a piece of shit, the two, like, scenes in the movie, it shows that he isn't generally probably not a terrible person. Like, he just has this addiction problem.
In a terrible circumstance.
He's just been in a terrible circumstance because when he basically risks his own life, or not risks his own life, but gives up his own life for his kids to keep him out, he's like, stay out. That puts him in a nice light. Like, you look at me and go, okay, so he's not this monster that's living up in the attic.
Right.
He's actually generally cares for his children.
Right.
As much as he may not actually care for his children.
Do we know what he was doing in the mine?
They were making meth.
Like meth?
Cooking
yes.
meth.
Okay,
there's a meth lab.
Yeah, I was like, is
they were
that
pulling
what they were doing?
Jesse Pinkman and Walter White.
Yeah, that's what I
cooking
figured.
meth.
Interesting
That's
that
what they were
Jesse
doing.
Plemons was in this.
I know. Yeah, that was interesting for sure.
Because they had all those things hanging down, and they said that they were what?
Oh, those were herb bags or
medicine bags.
Medicine bags to ward off the evil Wendigo. That's why the old sheriff, the Native American, was like, don't go past those. Like, those were there to ward off. And then you noticed that there was one on the door that led up to the attic.
Yeah.
That was also medicine bag.
Absolutely.
So that was why.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I thought there was maybe one. This isn't a movie that's quote worthy, but here's one that I had, and if you guys have anything else, step in after. But I thought Lucas's story that he reads in front of the class, which goes a little something like this. Once there were 3 bears that lived in a dark and wet cave above a small town. Every day Little Bear went to school, and at night he would come home and eat dinner. But one day the Little Bear came home, and Big Bear and Baby Bear were different. Big Bear got sick, and his insides turned black. Big Bear has become more angrier and meaner because they had no food, no meat. But they had each other. Which is a very... Hearing that kid read that, and
That was a very weird...
Yeah.
Hearing him read it
really
from
good, and
just
I was like,
pictures that he drew, too. Not even words.
Right.
He didn't even write down. That's... Yeah, that was...
That was dark.
Upsetting.
Very dark.
Yeah. It's a very upsetting movie, like I said.
And it sounds like there's some sort of abuse going on in this house, when in reality, no, Big Bear is turning into a monster.
Which, okay, red flag, this kid definitely needs some fucking help. Like, we should help this kid.
This is way worse than abuse. This kid's going to be eaten by these...
Yeah. I don't really know if this is the type of movie where you have any one particular character that's a favorite. I do have a least favorite. I don't know about you guys.
Who's your least favorite?
Mine's the ginger bully, 100%. That kid fucking sucks.
Oh, yeah.
Total asshole.
An asshole.
I hate bullies in general, so that was mine. I think my favorite character was probably Lucas the kid.
He was great. They picked a great child.
He was fantastic.
So, one thing I don't know maybe he's just because he's a little kid and he looks that skinny, but I hope they didn't like make this kid lose weight for this role.
I know, he looked
because he
I
looked
wondered about
really
that.
uncomfortably.
So-
He looked like Christian Bale from The Machinist.
Yeah. If you look him up on IMDb, he looks way more normal. So
Yeah.
I think
I
it
hope
was
they're
probably
not-
just makeup and
Yeah,
prosthetics maybe.
I hope
like
they
something
weren't
like that.
lose this weight because they did a good job with it. If that's
Yeah.
if that isn't the case,
Kid's got a bright future ahead of him acting if that was all acting because oh my god, he had the saddest look on his face the entire movie. He looked scared the entire movie. He just looked like
Except for that one scene
world weary and beaten down.
when he put that thing in the bully's like
Yes.
backpack and then he just stands in
Yeah.
the doorway
The
and
dog
he's just
shit.
like,
Yeah.
like
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Any other favorites or least favorite
I
characters?
liked Kerry Russell's character a lot. I thought that she evolved and like really like I liked her whole like she's kind of the one grounded person that's like, does anyone see what else is going on
like,
here?
am I taking
like,
crazy pills here? Like, what's going on?
I liked her a lot. I thought
she was
her
really
character
good. She's been around for a while too.
She's been in a bunch of shit.
been
I
in
feel like
so
she
much
doesn't really
shit.
have like. I mean, what's the most famous thing Kerry Russell has been in? She was in The Americans, that TV show that was
Yeah.
on for a long time on FX.
She was in a lot of stuff in the '90s too, right?
Yeah, she
I
was.
hated her brother's character. I thought he sucked.
Jesse Plemons.
He did
Yeah,
nothing.
I feel like that was kind of how the character was written though, because
Right.
he's a good actor. I feel like he was just kind of written to be like this milquetoast, passive.
I love milk toast.
Like, this guy, like, oh, like, what am I supposed to do? I'm
Yeah.
doing all I can. Like, I don't know what
Yeah.
else to do.
Speaking of nitpicks, not really a nitpick, but my least favorite scene. I
Mm-hmm.
thought the scene was so stupid
Mm.
and the worst dialogue I've ever seen. It's when she follows him and then she buys him ice cream, and she's like, "Ice cream's my favorite vegetable." And the guy's
Yeah.
like, "What are you fucking stupid? It's not a vegetable."
Oh, she's
Like,
trying to get the
no,
kid
I
to
know,
open
but like,
up
there's
to her a
other
little
ways to
bit,
open
like,
up instead of
yeah.
saying dumb. The kid literally
Yeah.
was looking at her like, "You're an idiot."
Right.
Yeah.
My favorite fruit, cheeseburgers. I was like, "Shut up! This is such a stupid scene." It
Well,
drove me insane.
I feel like that character, she was definitely playing it like she was doing everything she could, like with every fiber she had to
try to
like
break
hold
through to
herself
him, yeah.
hold herself together. In addition to trying to break through to him, so maybe that was like all she knew how to do.
Yeah.
Because they didn't really elaborate a ton on her past, in addition to that she was abused, like her brother was.
Right.
Like, you didn't know if she was married. It seemed like she certainly never had kids before, so she was trying to like
She was just looking at pictures.
be
You
a
didn't
surrogate
really know
mother to
what-
this
yeah.
kid, right? Yeah, I don't know. Any beefs with anybody in the cast?
No, I
thought
thought
it was-
I thought it was well.
pretty well
I thought it
acted.
was well
Yeah, I think
cast.
so, too.
Fun little note. We talked about this on the way out last night. So Jesse Plemons' partner, the second cop that's in it for a good amount of time, is played by a guy named Rory Cochrane, who played the long-haired stoner dude in Dazed and Confused.
Nice.
He's been in a bunch of stuff, but that's what I always will remember him from. So I always think that's funny every time I see him. Like, "Ooh, what's up, dude?"
What's up,
Great movie, Dazed and Confused.
I was
love
actually
that.
just thinking, this is a side note, like random thought, about the scene where when you were, I know I should have mentioned this in like scenes
fine.
beforehand, but where you find out that the dad actually was like coherent enough to tell him to like lock the doors and to not let him out. And
Yeah, you
stuff.
mentioned that with like the flashback. Yeah.
No, I mentioned
No.
that, but when
Oh, I
the
thought you
hosts
did.
aren't listening.
Oh my
wow.
God.
I talked about that scene with the medicine bag on the door,
Well, you said the medicine bag on the door, but
and I
like,
also said that that's where it shows you that that guy actually isn't that bad of it. Like at least he's care.
Yeah.
And Mike said he was
You
cognizant.
did mention that.
Yeah,
yes,
we
I'm
talked.
Never
sorry.
mind,
I
I'm sorry.
misspoke.
Okay, I wasn't
Pardon
listening.
me.
Sorry.
That's
It
okay.
happens. It happens.
We talked about the scene with the school principal entering the house. I thought that was probably my favorite kill. What I thought was interesting,
She deserved it.
they don't really show a lot of the kills up close and personal, but they do show the extremely grisly aftermath of these kills.
Yes.
Did you guys have a favorite kill, Andrew?
That's probably the one.
Yeah.
I thought so. Or the biggest scare wasn't the best kill though. Was when he killed the guy from Dazed and
Yeah,
Confused from behind. But
Yeah.
other than that, that was definitely the best kill.
I think that's the best kill for me too. The guy from behind with the
Yeah,
that
the
was-
scare.
yeah, that one was good.
Okay. Fair enough.
'Cause that
Guys.
scared the shit out of me.
Before I even ask this question out loud, I'm going to say, oh my God, yes it would. And that is, would it make a good haunted attraction? I would walk through this
yeah.
haunted house like you fucking read about a million times
Yeah.
if they were to turn it into a haunted house. hey, Universal Studios, Halloween Horror Nights, get on this. Acquire the rights to this movie and make a Wendigo haunted house based on Antlers.
Dude, someone just take an abandoned town like that there's nothing going on and just turn the whole thing into a haunted attraction.
I know. I feel like that would be tough to do, but I'm on board with you.
That would be like almost a theme park.
Yeah.
So, interesting thing. A couple years back, Universal in Orlando at Halloween Horror Nights did an original haunted house. So not anything based on a movie, something they created that was based on Roanoke.
Oh, I like Roanoke.
The colony that disappeared. And the story behind it was that basically they ran out of food and the Wendigo turned all of these colonists into cannibals. So it had cannibalistic elements in addition to, you were walking through and seeing Wendigos as well. So that was a really cool concept.
They should make that into a movie.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this would be a fucking hella good fucking haunted house. I would love to do it. Yeah, absolutely. Guys, I think it definitely sets you up for one. I don't think we need one, but do you think this movie deserves a sequel? I don't think we'll get one.
Deserves? Yes. Potential for it there? Yes. Do I want a sequel? I don't really want a sequel.
I don't think I want a sequel.
I don't like sequels. This movie ended perfectly. It ended very depressingly, like the rest of the movie. So what, are you just going to get me more depressed in the next movie?
It ends with the kid dying. And, I mean, she's going to kill the little brother. I mean, at that point, you're not making a sequel.
But it's even more depressing after that because the kid, when he's off in the ocean, basically.
And he's eating whatever.
And he's eating something, and they're like, well, he's going to be, you know what a tiger's going to turn into eventually. So is he sick? Or are they talking about his mental... But she had the same mental abuse that went on, not the same, obviously, and she turned out all right. So, but he also has blood on his face when he walks out.
Yeah, so perfect time to talk about the ending. So, so at the very, very end, yes, obviously, so Kerry Russell's character.
So I have a question. I was under the impression that if you were, touched by the Wendigo and or stabbed or, like how her brother...
Yeah.
Then you kind of get, the Wendigo kind of fever thing going on because you've been,
Yeah.
But I don't think that he was never hurt or harmed or, cut or whatever. That was, I guess I don't know. That we
saw on screen, that we saw.
I mean, right, but he also was fending by himself to eat for how long? So
3
maybe...
weeks.
He's not going to the grocery store, and if he's
what is he eating?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
At the end of the movie, he has blood in his face, like he was eating something out of the ocean.
Because he's probably eating what he's feeding his dad and his brother.
So basically, what happened to the dad and the younger brother was when they were turning into the Wendigos, they were secreting veins. This black stuff out of their eyes, their mouth. Right?
You could see their black veins.
So I didn't think it was blood. I thought Lucas, the kid, when he comes away from the water at the end, they wipe some black substance off his mouth.
Oh, I thought it was blood.
So obviously, I think that's meant to be a little bit ambiguous, but then obviously the very end where they get you is that Jesse Plemons' character, Kerry Russell's brother, starts coughing uncontrollably and he starts getting that black stuff coming out of his eyes and his mouth. So obviously he was stabbed by the Wendigo, so he's going to turn into one.
But it will only be as fast as you feed them, they need basically meat or whatever.
Whatever.
Well, it's also too hey, they say that with children of addicts or alcoholics, right? It's something that you probably have.
Well, that's why I thought it was kind of cool that they had the oversized black veins. That's you're it's kind of I don't know, something to that line.
But maybe Kerry Russell feels like she can cure him of that.
Of course she does, because Kerry Russell's one of those people that thinks that she can fix everything.
Just like Lucas thought that he could cure his little brother.
Right.
And she said to him at the end, you know that he's never going to get any better before she kills his little brother, with him with his back turned, which, man, that was heavy, heavy, heavy shit. Ugh. So, yeah, great movie, very heavy. I would recommend watching it and, queue up an episode of South Park or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia for yourself afterwards to make yourself have a good laugh if those are shows you're into or whatever makes you laugh. Parks and Rec, Seinfeld, blah, blah, blah. Andrew would be Seinfeld.
Probably.
Guys, any final thoughts on Antlers before we put a bow on this bitch and send it off into the ether?
I would say watch it. Go see it in the movie theater if you have the opportunity to, because I think it's way better
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Much better viewing in the movie theater.
Yeah.
with this
Yeah, I
movie.
agree.
Get your popcorn, get your big Mountain Dew.
We had
Get your
popcorn
freezy or
and
your
soda
icy or
and-
whatever
yeah,
you call
an
it.
icy. Yeah.
Milk duds.
Oh, I always get an icy at the movies. That's the only reason I
know.
go to the movies. And it annoys me because they never have the pretzels. I want the pretzel bites with the cheese sauce. Can you get those back, please?
I know.
There's not a lot of people going to the movies.
I
They're
know,
not
but
stocking up on everything.
I'm just going to bring in my
True,
own,
true.
and they're going to be like, you got a problem?
You got a problem? You don't have these.
Listen,
I
you
don't
have
want
these.
that.
I don't have to
I
come.
want them.
I know you have 8 people here, so I could...
So I should just bring my
I bet you
Chinese
right
food
now,
there,
I
too.
bet you
be
right now,
fair.
you could literally walk in with a bag of McDonald's.
They would
Oh,
not
they
give
don't.
a
And they would be
shit.
like, thank God
Yeah,
somebody's
thanks,
here.
someone's
Someone's
here.
here,
Yeah,
yeah.
it gives me something to do, for sure. But, I would highly recommend checking out Antlers. Andrew, any final thoughts?
Like Kat said, see it in theaters.
Okay.
Don't wait till it comes out onto the small screen.
Yeah.
Nice parting thought for sure, by all accounts, to everybody. All right, folks, well, it's been another episode of America's Hometown Horror. Thanks again for listening. My name is Mike. I've been joined by my co-hosts, Catherine and Andrew, my esteemed co-hosts. And if you're interested in more about what we have to say about all horror-related things, you can find us on various social media platforms. The first one, our biggest one, is our website. That's ahpod.com, ahhpod.com. You can also find us on YouTube and Facebook. Just go on there and search for America's Hometown Horror. We'll be the first thing that pops up. You'll see our nice little cool logo designed by the lovely and talented Catherine.
Thank you.
You can also tweet at us at Hometown Horror. You can also find us on Instagram at Hometown Horror Pod, which is where we are the most active. And you can shoot us some feedback at hometownhorrorpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find our show wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you're listening right now. But we're everywhere. Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Spreaker, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and so on and so forth. Again, my name is Mike, and thanks again to my esteemed co-hosts, Catherine and Andrew. Guys, say goodbye to your listeners.
Adios, muchachos.
You can't say this is my thing.
Good
Sorry, gato.
evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.
Later. Hey everyone, it's Mike from America's Hometown Horror, and just wanted to say thank you again for listening to another episode of our show, because of course, we would be nothing without you listeners. If you are interested in more local Plymouth podcasts, I would highly recommend you check out some shows by our cohorts on the Inebriart Podcast Network. That's right, the Inebriart Podcast Network, folks. In addition to America's Hometown Horror, you can find the Inebriart Podcast, Bar Talk, Theme Park Legends, Retro Redoctopus, and Old Colony Cast. Head on over and give them a listen.